Welcome to the bullshit-free zone. Welcome to Weight Loss Biohacks. In this video, we will talk about the single best weight loss diet that you can possibly do. More specifically, we will cover the following topics. First, we'll explain why dietitians fail 95% of the time, and then we will introduce the idea of minimal intervention. In other words, how you can lose weight by changing as few things in your life as possible. Then we will outline 5 specific strategies, with the first one being change almost nothing. In other words, you don't necessarily make any big conscious changes. You pretty much continue to eat as normal and still lose weight. I'll explain. The second strategy is to pick just one meal, focus on that one meal during the day, and the rest of the time eat pretty much normal and lose the weight that way. The third strategy is just attacking the snacks, eliminating the snacks, and leaving the major meals untouched. Strategy number 4 is to pick 2 days a week, diet only on those days, and pretty much live your life as normal during the remaining 5 days of the week. And finally, strategy number 5 focuses on just adding something to your diet as opposed to subtracting something. You simply add more protein, but it's got to be specific types of protein that you're adding, and you let protein work its magic by reducing your appetite and allowing you to eat less of what you normally eat. Now, why do dietitians fail? Very simple. If you ever walked into a dietitian's office, you probably walked out with a list that looks something like this. A list that specifies every single thing that will go into your mouth throughout the course of the day with specific times. This is utter and absolute nonsense, and in my experience, 19 out of 20 people who are given a list like this give up after a short period of time. This is simply not doable. This is just ridiculous. Why? Very simple. Because eating is a natural phenomenon. Eating should come naturally to you. You shouldn't have to think about what to eat and what not to eat 24/7. How much sense does it make to completely turn your life upside down, to change every single thing related to eating, which is one of the only 2 activities that you have to engage in to be able to stay alive? You just have to eat and drink, and you have to sleep. Everything else in your life, at least for a while, can be suspended. How much sense does it make to completely remake your life in the name of losing weight? That's just way too big an effort. That's too much suffering. And if you do this, your entire life will feel off, odd, wrong, lacking, abnormal, and not sustainable. Besides, you're used to certain things which define you. If you're an American, maybe you've been eating peanut butter jelly sandwiches since you were 5 years old, and at the age of 50, you still continue to eat them. Maybe you're French and you having a croissant for breakfast every single morning, again, for the last 30 years, with the last 10 years eating it at the same establishment, maybe. If you're Japanese, you gotta maybe have your mochi sweets after dinner. Eliminate every single one of these little pleasures from your life. There's got to be a better way to lose weight, don't you think? Dietitians, however, do not listen. They do not try to understand the person. In fact, they even seem to desire to make the process as tough as possible. The more they can scare you and make you feel like what you're eating is going to kill you and you have to change everything, the more they feel like they earn their fee and you'll continue to work with them because scare tactics do work. Very few dietitians will tell you we're going to change as few things in your diet as possible and have you lose weight. This happens to be the simplest, easiest, and the highest success rate diet that you can possibly do. But if a dietitian tells you that, you'll feel like you don't really need the dietitian, which is absolutely true. You do not need a dietitian in your life. So what to do? What was the right way to approach this? Very simple. The less dramatic the intervention, the easier the diet will be. In other words, the less you can change in your life and still lose weight, the less you'll have to think about the diet, the more naturally you'll be able to stick to it, the more weight you will lose, and for a longer period of time, you'll be able to do it. It's really, really that simple. So here's strategy number 1. Are you ready for something absolutely groundbreaking? Something that will just blow your mind away? Something you've never heard before? The conversation that I have with people to determine if this is the kind of diet that's right for them is the following. I ask my client, have you lost weight before? And they go, yep. Did you do anything fancy? Did you follow a special diet? Have you gone to a dietitian? And he or she's like, no, I just ate less. I probably should have done something more specific and targeted, but I just ate less. Nope, you do not need to do anything beyond that. We will repeat exactly that. That's it. That's it. Simply eat smaller portions. This is the diet with the best track record. Eat the same way, but stop a little bit sooner and trim the excess junk that you could do without. Very, very simple. Hundreds of millions of people have lost weight in this exact fashion. You do not need to do anything fancy. You do not need somebody to work out the numbers. You don't need somebody sitting there and calculating the precise amount of calcium that you're getting and then, trying to determine if there's a copper deficiency in your diet. And you certainly do not need a list in your hand. Very, very simple. And remember, we have covered two powerful pharmaceuticals thus far, and we're going to cover more. Nicotine and GLP-1 agonists such as Ozempic, Wegovy, Rybelsus, Trulicity, and those other drugs, they're going to come in very, very handy. In fact, with those drugs, people have lost weight without necessarily doing anything special. People were given these weights, given these drugs, in some instances for the treatment of diabetes, in some other instances in order to help them lose weight, and in most cases, they weren't given any instructions regarding what to eat. They naturally ate less and they lost weight. That's simple. You may ask, but what about healthy eating? If somebody asks me that, I come back with the following question. Do you have a diagnosed medical condition? If so, is a dietary intervention prescribed or recommended for you by a physician? The answer is usually no. I mean, people usually have a little bit of a high blood pressure and high blood sugar and so on and so forth, but they're simply told to, eat fewer calories and lose weight, which is precisely what we're attempting to do here. The final question is, are you doing something outrageous? Are you like maybe, spending days on end eating at McDonald's and nothing else? Or are you pretty much like, eating normal but overdoing it? And for the vast majority of people, it's the latter. If not, if none of the above applies to you, I tell them to lose the weight first and then think about healthy eating. Pursuing both goals at the same time is just too high a mountain to climb. You're multiplying your chances of disappointment and failure by trying to attack on both fronts. Absolutely not necessary. So, one thing needs to be clarified though. Now, 20 years ago, the entire understanding of the public of what to eat in order to lose weight was much more clean, clear, and accurate. Today, there's now such an anti sugar campaign that people will reduce sugar and replace it with anything that isn't sugar and feel like they're doing something great for themselves. And that can definitely result in weight gain. I'll give you a concrete example. A lot of people eat a little bit of fruit in front of the TV in the evenings. And because fruit obviously contains sugar, they feel very, very bad about it. And they're operating under the assumption that if they can remove the fruit from their diet and replace it with something that does not have sugar, regardless of how many calories that additional new food has in their diet now, they're going to lose weight, which is completely inaccurate. In a lot of cases, people replace the fruit with nuts, with a bowl of nuts, which usually results in weight gain because nuts are very dense in calories. And if you're eating a couple of handful of nuts, you're probably getting more calories than you would if you just ate fruit in its place. Here's another one. Olive oil. Olive oil is supposed to be great for you, right? It does have health benefits, that's accurate. But it's also got calories. There's no such system in your body where if the calories are coming from healthy sources, they don't count. Nope, it doesn't work that way. Calories are calories are calories, as we have covered in the previous video. Please go back and watch that if you haven't. If you simply remove nothing from your diet, but now add olive oil in an effort to make your diet healthier, you will gain weight, absolutely. And I mean, olive oil is something that is extremely easy to overeat. If you're eating a large bowl of salad, that salad can take a lot of olive oil. If in addition you're also putting some olive oil and some let's say vinegar in a plate and dipping your bread in it, you can take in a tremendous amount of olive oil over the course of the day, which again will definitely lead to weight loss unless you're removing something else from your diet to make room for it. Another example, this one really like kills me. Oh my god! I mean, one of these days I'm gonna jump out the window when somebody tells me that they're doing this. People have been told that they should add fats to pretty much any meal, any snack, in order to make it digest more slowly. So somebody might, for example, go from eating just a little bowl of yogurt before going to bed to eating a bowl of yogurt with peanut butter in it. Why? Just to slow down the digestion. My goodness, this is just insanity. This is insanity. even though you don't necessarily need to slow down the digestion, even though it's absolutely normal for the human body to go into ketosis while sleeping, which is actually a great thing, in order to avoid something good, you're adding calories to what you're eating. And I asked them, like, are you getting up in the middle of the night in order to eat? And most people are like, no. Why do you want to slow down the digestion? And they have no idea. They've just been told that it's a good thing to do. And now they're all of a sudden consuming extra peanut butter without, again, removing anything from their diet. And this too will result in weight gain. So, to wrap it all up, if you're going for strategy number one, if you're aiming to lose weight without changing anything in your diet, simply by eating less, do not make these substitutions that we've seen over the last three slides. Do not, in an effort to make your diet healthier, add stuff that is very high in calories. Don't do that. You'll do that at a later stage. Strategy number two, just pick one meal and go from there. Sorry. I ask people the following question: is there one particular meal that you can do without? Or do you feel like you really gotta eat three times a day, which is absolutely fine if that's the way you feel? A lot of people come back and say, I'd say probably like 30 to 40% of the people come back and say, yeah, I can skip, you know, the following meal. It can be dinner, it can be breakfast, it can be lunch, it can be any one of the three meals. And if that's what people feel like they can easily do, that's an excellent, excellent weight loss strategy. For example, a lot of people can skip breakfast. Many people are not all that hungry in the morning, and many working people, at least on weekdays, cannot enjoy breakfast anyway because they gotta stuff something in their mouths and run out to the office or to work. Then why not just eliminate it? Or replace it with something super, super small. That allows you to eat a little bit more during lunch or during dinner and still lose weight. If you're skipping any one of the meals, in place of the meal that you're skipping, you can have either nothing. If it's not too late, if it's not dinner that you're skipping, you can just have coffee. You can have coffee plus an apple or any fruit. You can have coffee plus a cup of skim cheese or yogurt. You can have coffee and dried meat. This is a favorite of a lot of my clients, especially for lunch. Any kind of dried meat will do, along with some coffee. Or you can have anything that's very low in calories. That's simple. However, um, do keep in mind that you don't need to feel guilty if you're completely skipping one of the meals. It's a great thing. And if one particular meal of the day feels like the easiest one for you to skip, and if it happens to be breakfast, do not operate under the impression that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. There is absolutely no such thing. And if you do believe that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, I invite you to join the rest of us in the 21st century because you're thinking along the lines of 1950s. Please stop doing this. In addition, there's no such thing as timing your caloric intake to coincide with your circadian rhythm. There is also no such thing as eating in harmony with the movements of a particular planet or whatever. The last one being a joke, obviously. You do not have to make a conscious effort to time your caloric intake. If one of the meals feels like you can easily get rid of it and still be all right, get rid of it. Now, this is a much easier sell today than it was 20 years ago because a lot of people have been advocating intermittent fasting, during which people go for long periods of time without eating. So, the following comments and concerns come up much less frequently, but they still do come up occasionally. For example, a lot of people ask me, but Luca, my blood sugar will drop. And my answer to that is awesome, let it drop. That's a great thing. That's how you lose body fat. A lot of people are also concerned that they will overcompensate in the next meal. There's a good amount of research that shows that most people do not overcompensate in the next meal. But just like with any of the other strategies, if this isn't working for you, and if you happen to be one of those small number of people who do overcompensate in the next meal, then do not apply the strategy. But you know what? There's a very high probability that you will not overcompensate in the next meal. When I say overcompensate, I mean, if you're skipping breakfast, it is okay to eat a slightly larger lunch. But do not be eating, obviously, a lunch that is as big as your regular lunch plus the breakfast that you skipped. That defeats the purpose. And again, most people do not. Another favorite one is my cortisol will shoot up. Great, let it shoot up. That's how you keep your blood glucose steady. Your cortisol is not going to be chronically elevated as a result of skipping just one meal a day. Come on now, people do like 72-hour fasting for health reasons, and even their cortisol goes up only for a short period of time and comes back to normal. By the way, if you do have a true medical condition with chronically elevated cortisol levels, trust me, you're not going to recover from that just by consistently eating breakfast. You're facing a very significant issue that will need serious medical intervention. And the vast majority of people do not have the kind of cortisol spikes that they believe they do. As before, the appetite control agents can help tremendously. Nicotine gum can be super, super helpful, especially if you coincide the timing of the nicotine gum to happen, during the time of that meal that you're skipping. And also, you can also slightly shift the timing of the other two meals. For example, if you're skipping breakfast and if you're having lunch as the first meal of the day, you can, of course, have lunch a little bit earlier than you otherwise would. Higher protein intake in the other two meals that you are not skipping is a great idea, as we'll see in a moment. And by the way, do keep in mind that being hungry when you sit down to eat will make the meal much more fun anyway. Just to clarify once again, you do not have to skip a meal if doing so does not suit you. We have a lot of other strategies that you can actually go for. For example, strategy number three: ask people what exact eating habit behavior makes you feel really bad about yourself. And most of the time, it's the snacking. And I tell them, listen, have there been times you stopped snacking? And they go, oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, many times. I focused on it. I got rid of the snacks and it felt really good. And then I tell them, perfect. Let's go for that. Focus on just the snacks, eliminate them, and leave the meals, the major meals, untouched and see where that takes us. At first, you may want to focus on the easier days, which for most people, most working people, happens to be weekdays. Weekends are a little harder because if you're at home, you're very close to the fridge. If you're going out with friends and family, eating food, especially with children, stopping in one place to get pretzels, stopping by once again a couple hours later to get ice cream is natural for most people. Not that it's necessarily a very healthy thing to do. Weekends are much more challenging to apply this strategy. So, in the beginning, especially if you're a working person, focus on the easier weekends. And do consider adding whatever you're having as a snack to one of your major meals. Usually, if you're having dinner, dinner is the most suited meal for that. If you're always having a piece of chocolate as a snack, which then oftentimes gets out of control and turns into an entire chocolate bar, do consider rewarding yourself at the end of dinner with a small piece of chocolate if you actually manage not to eat any as a snack during the day. Again, appetite suppressing agents truly, truly shine. Nicotine gum is an especially good one. However, all pharmaceuticals that reduce appetite will work to help you eliminate snacks. And by the way, especially if you're eliminating snacks, you can be a little bit more flexible with meal timing. If, for example, you're normally having dinner at 7:30 p.m. and by 6:30 you feel an overwhelming urge to go for a snack, why not try and have your dinner at 6:30 instead? Chances are you will not need to eat one more thing before going to bed. You might go to bed with a slightly more empty stomach than usual, but you can simply eliminate the need for snacking by pulling ahead the timing of your dinner, for example, in such a case. Strategy number four: diet just 2 days a week. During the remaining 5 days, do nothing at all. Enjoy your life. Here's the conversation that I have with people to determine if this is the right strategy for them. I asked them, have you ever gone a full day without eating? For some people, that's like unimaginable. They're like, what do you mean? Yeah, there have been days when I ate less than normal, but an entire day eating nothing or almost nothing? No, I would faint. I tell them, all right, you're not, you probably won't faint, but let's leave it at that. Let's pick some other strategy for you. On the other hand, a lot of people go like, sure, I have for various reasons. Food wasn't available. I would have to, eat some really crappy food, and I chose not to. I was really stressed or whatever. Yeah, for various reasons, I had gone an entire day eating nothing or almost nothing. And next question is, did you feel like you're about to die? And if the person has done that multiple times, the answer is almost always, no, I just felt fine. And then I come up with the following proposition. Do you want to do that just twice a week, lose weight, and doing that just twice a week is going to be absolutely sufficient to lose weight unless you're going completely bananas the remaining 5 days. And the remaining 5 days, just do nothing at all. Enjoy the remaining 5 days. And most people who have a natural inclination to, go for long periods of time without food love this idea. They absolutely love this idea. How do you exactly do this? It's especially suited if you're an ex-athlete who cut weight for competition. If you're reading this and you're like, oh my god, he's talking about somebody completely the polar opposite of me. I've been a couch potato all my life, been a professional couch potato all my life. Don't worry, don't worry. You may have fasted for religious reasons. If you did, then again, you are very suited for this particular strategy. A lot of people travel for whatever reason, and they tend to eat much less than normal when on the road. Yeah, the next morning when they check into the hotel and there's an open buffet for breakfast, they may way overcompensate. But while they're traveling, they eat much, much less. If you've done any of the above three, then you know that you're capable of doing this. Also, people who have one or two very stressful days at work, one or two very stressful days per week at work, and tend to forget about food on those days, once again, can apply that very, very easily. For example, a client of mine was an accountant. Every Friday, he had to close the books, he had to prepare a lengthy report, and that was pretty much an all day affair. And he was just running around and typing in numbers and yelling at his associates from morning until like 7 p.m. And he was feeling guilty for usually forgetting about eating on Fridays. And I told him, no, do not, absolutely. Just pick one more day when you're going to eat almost nothing. And dieting, eating just about nothing on those 2 days, I guarantee you, you will lose weight. And he did very, very successfully. And the diet that he did on Fridays was a free day of dieting in the sense that it didn't feel like dieting. He was very inclined not to eat anything on those days anyway. So if any of these apply to you, then I highly recommend that you give this strategy a try. Unless you have a medical condition, do not feel like on those days when you're eating almost nothing, you have to do something, that you have to take special vitamins or minerals, or that you have to prepare a special drink that you'll sip throughout the day, that you have to prepare a special potion. Nothing of that sort at all. For 2 weeks, you can eat for 2 days, I'm sorry, you can eat absolutely nothing at all without adding any such supplements to your diet, and you would be perfectly fine. I guarantee you that. Again, unless you have a medical condition. If you're dieting on those 2 days of the week, target eating half as much as usual. You want to cut your caloric intake by at least 50%. If you're not exactly able to cut it by 50%, if you're eating 60% as much as normal, that's perfectly fine, of course, but do target 50%, and that's it. Done, finito, all set. Please, please, please do not overcomplicate this. Please do not turn this into a giant project. And strategy number 5, the final strategy. Just add something to your diet. Just add protein, let the protein do the job for you. And finally, here's the conversation that I have with a client to determine if this is the right strategy for him or her. I ask, are you the type who gets very turned off by bland food? Most people don't understand what I mean, and they're like, what do you mean exactly? Here is the scenario. If I told you I'll give you 1 month of salary, however much you're making per month, I'll give you that much money. If you can go ahead and for 100 consecutive days eat one portion of boiled skinless chicken breast every day. This does not mean that that's going to be the only thing that you're eating throughout the day. No, no, no. You can eat whatever else you desire. You can finish your boiled skinless chicken breast and immediately eat a dozen donuts. I don't care. But all I'm asking you to do is for 100 consecutive days, I'll give you a portion of skinless, very bland chicken breast. You just got to eat this. After that, you're free to do whatever you like. Would you be able to do that? Would you honestly be willing to do that? If I gave you 1 month of your salary after 100 such days, and a lot of people are like, where do I sign up? Sure, I can do that. If I can afterwards eat whatever I desire, if I'm only going to suffer eating this bland piece of food for a 3 to 4 minute period, sure, absolutely. And we go for this. Here's what you do. You just eat a portion of very lean and bland protein before each meal, or if you're only having two major meals and a very, very small meal throughout the day, you eat a very bland piece of protein before your two major meals, and then that's it. After eating that right before your meal, Then you go ahead and proceed to have your meal as normal. But of course, you will now be a little bit more full. You will be less hungry. You'll have less of an appetite. So do try to eat a little bit less than you otherwise would. Allow the protein to work. Give it a chance to work. And that's it. That really is it. Now, this may really work great if the following apply to you. If you generally have a big appetite and you tend to overeat anything, this strategy will likely work for you. A Japanese friend once told me something very insightful, something really cute. He said, we Japanese people eat a lot of steamed rice, obviously. As a kid, if a kid in your family is usually asking for a second serving of steamed rice, we know that kid is going to have a weight problem growing up. Why? Because that kid just doesn't feel full. He needs a lot of food. He's not eating the white rice because he's enjoying it tremendously. White rice is a very neutral, very, I don't want to say very, but a rather bland food. That's more or less a filler. If you're having a second portion even of that, that means you gotta really fill your stomach and eat large quantities to just feel normal. And that sort of individual will overeat pretty much anything. So if you're that kind of person who once he or she sits down at the table and starts eating has a really hard time stopping and tends to overeat just about anything, this strategy will likely work great for you. Also, if you eat large meals when you sit down but do not tend to snack much in between meals, this strategy has a much higher chance of working for you. If you're obviously not presently consuming very high levels of protein, then the strategy has a much higher chance of working. If you're already consuming a very large amount of protein, then yeah, chances are this isn't going to work all that well. But you know what? Unless you're making a conscious effort to really up your protein intake, you almost certainly are not consuming very high amounts of protein. And of course, the other thing that needs to happen for this to work is you must be able to afford this, which is not necessarily an easy thing for many people in the world. Now, why does this strategy work? Very simple, because protein is by far the most filling macronutrient on a per calorie basis. A serving of protein is usually 30 grams or so of protein. Considering that protein has approximately 4 calories per gram, we're talking we're talking about 120 calories. Now, and this is exactly what you would be taking in if you ate a completely fat-free piece of boiled chicken breast that has 30 grams of protein. It is like a serving of protein. It's fairly filling, despite the fact that it's giving you only a measly 120 calories. There is nothing on earth which contains only 120 calories that's nearly as filling. Nothing even comes close. Research shows that. Experiences of personal trainers and dietitians show that. And it's basically a no-brainer, again, provided that cost is not an issue. Here is research from the Journal of the American Dietetic Association, and it has tried to find a relationship between dietary intakes and the various types of dietary intakes and weight loss. And during a very long-lasting study, lasting between 2003 and 2007, including 828 weight loss participants, it found the following. It said participants who substituted protein for fat lost on average 0.23 kilogram per 6 months. So if you simply substitute an equal amount of, in terms of calories, protein for fat, you tend to automatically lose weight, which a lot of research, by the way, shows. The protein centric strategy should actually be the starting point of any weight loss approach. The best bang for the buck, in other words, the greatest weight loss, considering how painful and how much effort it is, and how difficult it is to do, comes from upping lean protein. There's only one challenge with this. While adding protein to your diet, you don't want to add too many extra calories. Now, just to be perfectly clear, we're not talking about going to KFC and consuming a bunch of fried chicken. No, because that is no longer pure protein. That is pretty much a meal. And that's, in fact, a potentially high calorie meal. I'm talking about something like you see on the right hand side of the screen: grilled chicken breast, boiled chicken breast. I'll give you a whole bunch of other options in the next video. I'm going to detail all of them. But I am talking about something that is as pure protein as possible. We will explain in detail what some of the foods are that are as pure protein as possible and will work great regardless of whatever strategy for weight loss you're picking. It's not just strategy number five that should involve upping your protein intake. In strategy number five, increased protein intake is the centerpiece of the strategy, is the central focus of the strategy. But increasing your lean protein intake is very important and is going to give you an advantage, a head start, regardless of whatever weight loss method you pick. So, it's worth dedicating an entire video to your new best friend, protein. See you there, and thank you.